Before this video starts, I'd just like to make an announcement. I have the Liberal Tears mug for $14.99 on my website. It is the first link in the description if you want to go pick one up. Don't worry if it breaks when it comes to your house. I'll send you another one for free out of my pocket. I don't care. I want you to get your Liberal Tear mug. It comes in Liberal Tears white with the face, black with the face, white without the face, and black without the face. So pick whichever one you want, and it'll come to your door in about 3 to 5 days. So that should be epic. First link in the description. Thank you. Let's go on with the video.
So my first interaction with Comey, I thought he was right. In July, I thought he was wrong. And I thought he was wrong because he is reading an element into the statute that does not exist. If Congress had intended to make intent an element of that statute, we would have done so. What we did instead was say gross negligence. Now, there's a reason for that. Intentionally hurting your country goes by another word: treason. So we wanted to criminalize conduct that did not reach the level of treason. It was intentional. It was not an oversight. But until we figure out how to win national elections and control the executive branch, his interpretation of the statute carries the day, along with the Department of Justice. So he announced that she would, by the way, how many of you read the letter he sent Friday? Some of you? Or was it Friday or was it Sunday? Yesterday. The first letter, I think, was Friday. This one was on a Sunday. All right? My eyes immediately went to one word: conclusions, plural. He had a number of conclusions in July, if memory serves. Our friends in the media skip over most of them, and they go simply to the fact that she's not being charged with a crime. But he had other conclusions. He concluded that she was extremely careless in her handling of national security-related matters. He concluded that she did not return all of her work-related emails. He concluded that she both sent and received information that was classified, and that some of it was marked classified at the time. Those were among his conclusions. He also concluded that no reasonable person would have done things the way that she did them. So if the media is going to talk about the conclusions, they should talk about all of them, which just leaves us with the conclusion that my friends in CNN have had as their breaking headline for the past 24 hours, Clinton cleared. Now I want you to take note of the irony of the closing argument of the Democrat nominee for president. That because the FBI did not find evidence beyond a reasonable doubt on every element of a criminal statute, that is somehow an endorsement for President of the United States. Surely to God, that is not where we are as a country. If that is the barometer for propriety, hey, I didn't get indicted. If that is the barometer for propriety, we've got some issues. But that's what the headlines all say today, right? Cleared. The other headline you see is no wrongdoing. I don't know what the word wrongdoing means. In criminal context, the word wrongdoing is a meaningless term. Wrongdoing is a subjective word. You can commit wrongdoing without committing a crime. Comey was pretty clear what she did was wrong and stupid and careless. He just said it didn't rise to the level of a criminal offense. If Mr. Trump wins, the very first thing I would like to see him do is restore the independence, the lonely independence that is required of a Department of Justice for you to have confidence in. And I say lonely independence because prosecutors and cops are oftentimes lonely. The woman you work for that has on a blindfold and holds a set of scales often does not have much to say. She doesn't say a whole lot. So you have to rely on your internal sense of integrity. Am I following the facts? And here is the surest way we will know that that is true. Lady Justice does not know, and will not know on Wednesday morning, whether it is failed Democrat presidential nominee Clinton or President-elect Clinton. She won't know, will she? She can't see. Will the investigations go forward? That's the surest way you will know whether or not you have an independent Department of Justice. The election should matter not one whit to a justice system. And as my friend Jason Chaffetz told me last night, Trey, it's not investigation, it is investigations plural. There's an investigation into the Clinton Foundation. There's an investigation into her false testimony before Congress. Tomorrow should have no impact on any of that. If you have a justice system that is truly independent. If you have a system of laws and not a system of men and women. We'll know that come Wednesday.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank the gentleman. Now recognize the gentleman from South Carolina, Mr. Gowdy, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I want to read a regulation. I would ask all the panelists to pay attention. It's a little tedious, but it's important. If new or unanticipated threats or hazards are discovered by either the government or the contractor, or if existing safeguards have ceased to function, the discoverer shall immediately bring the situation to the attention of the other party. That's a regulation. Mr. Hess, Mr. Giannetta, were there also contractual obligations in this realm between you and the government?
There are.
And they would be what? Similar to that? A notice provision?
I don't have an immediate recollection of the exact text, but it is similarly worded.
Okay. I think it's helpful sometimes to define terms, particularly for those of us that are liberal arts majors and don't deal with this. What is a new or unanticipated threat or hazard? Mr. Hess?
That would be an indication of compromise of a system or a failure of any of the system protections.
Oh, so when Chairman Chaffetz was having a difficult time getting answered to that question because the focus was on the loss of personal information, that's really not what that phrase means. It's just a threat or hazard. It doesn't actually have to be a loss, does it?
Not the way that I would define it.
Me either. What about existing safeguards have ceased to function? What does that mean? Mr. Hess?
Sorry, it's pretty explanatory.
It did strike me as being self-explanatory. It did. Mr. Giannetta, is it self-explanatory to you? Existing safeguards have ceased to function?
Yes.
Now, here's the really tough question, and I'll let both of you weigh in on this one because it is tough. What does the word immediately mean?
Without delay.
Without delay. Mr. Giannetta, is there another meaning that you're familiar with?
I think that's a good definition.
All right. So you had both a contractual obligation with the government and there's a regulatory obligation that if new or unanticipated threats or hazards are discovered by either the government or the contractor, or if existing safeguards have ceased to function, the discoverer shall immediately bring the situation to the attention of the other party. Ms. Archuleta, I had heard this morning about a March 2014 data breach. Did I hear that right?
Yes, sir, you did.
And when did you bring that breach to the attention of either Mr. Hess or Mr. Giannetta? And you are welcome to turn on your microphone or else bring it closer to you.
I would have to get that information back to you. I don't have it in my notes. Perhaps Ms. Seymour would know, but if not, we'd get that information back to you.
Well, do you know if it was immediately?
I would expect that it was immediate.
Well, let's find out. Ms. Seymour, do you know?
No, sir, I don't. But I don't think that I certainly don't think that we immediately notified our contractors of a breach to our network, because at that time we did not have any question as to whether it was affecting them. It was to our network at that time.
Mr. Hess, Mr. Giannetta, is that your understanding that they were under no duty to bring that to your attention? Not all at once. It's your contractual language, and you're looking at the regulation. Do you think you should have been notified because of the March breach?
Absolutely.
Well, why? Because I just heard one person say she didn't know and another say it was really none of your business. So why should you have been notified, despite the plain language of the regulation and the contractual language? Why do you think it was important that you be notified?
So that we could take appropriate or more appropriate actions to protect data.
Were you notified?
I was not.
Were you notified immediately?
No.
Huh. What do you have to say about that, Ms. Seymour?
I believe that that's accurate, sir.
Well, I'm with you there. I guess my question is why? Why, despite the plain language of the contract and the plain language of the regulation, why did you not immediately notify the contractors?
We worked with DHS and partners and to understand the potential compromise to our system so that we could make proper notifications.
Was DHS one of your contractors?
No, sir.
Well, I didn't think so, which that doesn't really help me understand the regulation because it says contractor. It doesn't say DHS. So why didn't you notify the contractor?
At that time, we were still investigating what had happened in our network.
What does the word immediately mean to you?
Without undue.
Did you do so?
No, sir, we did not.
Does the regulation say as soon as you figure out what happened or after you talk to DHS? That is not in my version of the regulation. Is it in yours?
I have not read that regulation, sir.
No, you know why you haven't? Because that one doesn't exist. The one that says notify DHS or try to figure it out. The only one that exists says to immediately notify the contractor, and you're telling me you didn't do it, and my question is why?
I can't answer that question.
Who can?
I will take that back and get you.
To whom will you take it?
I believe I would take it back to my staff to see if we have processes in place.
Do you think it's staff's responsibility to notify the contractor?
We have processes in place for making notifications when we find these.
Who's ultimately responsible for that process? Who failed to meet the contractual and regulatory obligations?
I would have to read that regulation, sir. I'm not familiar with it.
I just read it.
I'd be happy to read it, and I'd like to read the full context of it.
Oh, you think the context is different from what I just read?
I would want to read the context.
How about the contract? Have you read the contract?
I have read most of the parts of the contract, sir.
Well, I can't speak for the chairman, but my guess is that he and the other members would be really interested in who failed to honor both the letter and the spirit of the contractual obligation and the regulatory obligation. With that, I would yield back.
Thank the gentleman. Will now recognize.
The gentleman from Utah is recognized for his 5 minutes.
I assure the chairman that I will be punctual. Thank the chairman. To both the ATF and DEA, I can't thank the men and women enough who are on the front lines doing the hard, difficult work with their lives in jeopardy on a regular basis. And I hope you both carry that back, and they know how much people root for them, care for them, and are concerned about them. We also in Congress have to be concerned about the expenditures and making sure that we're giving proper oversight. Mr. Rosenberg, I want to talk about the confidential informant policy. It's been a source of a scathing review by the Inspector General's office, how that's being executed. There was a supplement to that as well. You have a confidential informant policy in place, correct?
Which now meets the Attorney General's guidelines, yes, sir.
And we have been trying in the Oversight and Government Reform Committee, as well as Senator Grassley in the Senate Judiciary Committee, to get a copy of this policy. Why won't you give it to us?
Well, 2 things, sir. One is I believe we've made it available to you and to Senator Grassley's staff for in-camera review, if I'm not mistaken. In terms of just providing it, that goes back to Department of Justice policy, by which I am constrained.
You testified on June 22nd of 2016. You said to Senator Grassley in a Senate hearing regarding this policy, quote, "It has been finalized. It's been approved by the department. I'm more than happy to provide a copy to this committee and to your staff, sir, end quote. Yet you didn't do that. Who is prohibiting you from giving that copy to Congress? Well, I see a huge difference between an in-camera review and actually providing it to the Congress.
And I respectfully don't see a huge difference. I understand your point. We've made it available for in-camera review. And
that's true, by the way. That's my understanding of it as well. But I just don't understand what you believe Congress has the right to have and not have the right to have. You freely give it to the Inspector General, but you won't give it to the United States Congress.
Well, and while I don't see a big difference, I understand your point. Nevertheless, I am constrained by the Department of Justice.
Who at the Department of Justice is telling you this?
The name of the person? I don't know, sir.
Can you give me that name?
I'll ask the Department of Justice if I can give you that name. I will give you.
No. Come on, that's silly season here.
No, I don't think it's.
I want to know specifically because there's hundreds of thousands of people involved here. I need a name. Can you give that to me by the end of the week?
I will ask.
No.
I can provide.
I'm asking you to give me the name of the person who is denying access to this. Here's what I'm forced to do. We have a hearing next door in the Oversight Committee as well with your deputy, both of your deputies.
Yes.
We are issuing a subpoena.
Okay.
And so I see no choice. We've been trying to do this. Senator Grassley's been trying to do this. I've been trying to do this. Department of Justice doesn't get to hide things from the United States Congress. And there is a huge difference between an in-camera review, no notes, people looking over your shoulder. You can't. Members of Congress have a very difficult time accessing that information. And if we're going to provide proper access, it seems like we should be able to review this, especially in light of hundreds of millions of dollars over the course of a year going out the door. The Inspector General giving you all a quote-unquote gentleman's C, as he called it, to grade how this is done. We've had massive problems with people misusing money and assets, and so I'm left with no choice. I've issued you a subpoena.
Okay.
We expect you to comply with that subpoena. I wish I didn't have to do that.
No, I understand.
But I want to have a further...
Hello, everyone. Hey, I'm just stopping by to remind you that liberals are insane. Social justice warriors are becoming more violent and triggered than ever before. Anyways, be sure to subscribe to KGP TV on YouTube and have a blessed day. Yeah, man.
Oversight. But until we figure out how to win national elections and control the executive branch, his interpretation of the statute carries the day, along with the Department of Justice. So, he announced that she would, by the way, how many of you read the letter he sent Friday? Some of you, or was it Friday or was it Sunday? Yesterday. The first letter, I think, was Friday. This one was on a Sunday. All right? My eyes immediately went to one word, conclusions, plural. He had a number of conclusions in July, if memory serves. Our friends in the media skip over most of them, and they go simply to the fact that she's not being charged with a crime. But he had other conclusions. He concluded.
Before this video starts, I'd just like to make an announcement. I have the Liberal Tears mug for $14.99 on my website. It is the first link in the description if you want to go pick one up. Don't worry if it breaks when it comes to your house. I'll send you another one for free out of my pocket. I don't care. I want you to get your Liberal Tear mug. It comes in Liberal Tears white with the face, black with the face, white without the face, and black without the face. So pick whichever one you want. And
to make intent an element of that statute, we would have done so. What we did instead was say gross negligence. Now, there's a reason for that. Intentionally hurting your country goes by another word, treason. So we wanted to criminalize conduct that did not reach the level of treason. It was intentional. It was not at all.
Come to your door in about 3 to 5 days, so that should be epic. First link in the description. Thank you. Let's go on with the video.
So my first interaction with Comey, I thought he was right. In July, I thought he was wrong. And I thought he was wrong because he is reading an element into the statute that does not exist. If Congress had intended